Record. Okay, great. All right. So everybody is muted. Wave your hand if you can't hear me or something, but I assume everybody can hear and see me. I don't think people are getting more and more used to Zoom, so I don't really think there's any housekeeping we need to do around Zoom. I do want to welcome everybody on this 4th of July. Thank you for coming out on a holiday, maybe a kind of strange holiday this year for a number of reasons, but you know, the 4th of July is Independence Day. It's celebrating the birthday of Independence Day, freedom, justice, and equality for all. Let's hope we finally achieve that. We'll probably get some really interesting comments and speeches and things like that today on various programs. Our theme today is going to be arms and legs. And of course, you can't work your arms and legs if you don't have a trunk. So to have really well-coordinated movements from your arms and from your legs, you need to have the muscular support and integration through the trunk. So let's just review what the trunk is. The trunk it's kind of a rectangle. It starts at the top along the shoulders. It comes down the shoulder joints, so the shoulder joints are part of it. Let's see if I can stand. It comes down through the rib cage, so the rib cage, the somatic center, the pelvis, the hip joints are within the pelvis, and then like say right below the pubic bone or pelvic floor would be the bottom of the trunk. So the trunk covers a lot of ground, including, of course, our spinal axis, which is our axis. So sometimes I might say rib cage to point out a certain part of the trunk or somatic center or pelvis or spine. But if I say trunk, it's this whole large rectangle, and that plays a role in how we use the appropriate and efficient use of our arms and our legs. And today we're going to focus on what's called differentiation and integration. So what that means is, if I want to differentiate a movement, like I might take my shoulder and my shoulder blade and I might bring it up and release it slowly because we're using the pendicular response, and bring it down and release it slowly. And I'm just working really locally in a joint. I'm trying to differentiate and understand the sensations of the movement in that joint. But in life, I'm not going to just use this joint. It's attached to my arm, it's attached to my rib cage, it's attached to the spine, it's attached to the head and neck, and it's dependent on how I'm using my legs. So the integration then might come in something like, I'm going to be bringing much more of my shoulder blades up, or one shoulder blade up and down, because I'm using much more of my body. That's what should happen in real life, and that's what integration means. And we're going to be doing some differentiation and integration, especially of shoulder, scapula, and hips today as part of our movement. So this is brain work. We're learning and relearning how to move more efficiently and with more control and more ease, especially if we've had an injury, we've had surgery, it's been a very stressful time with us, we've developed, quote, bad postural habits like slumping in front of the computer with the head forward and the eyes staring forward. And so we get stiff, our certain muscles get very tight, and we've done it so much they habitually get tight. And so now we have to learn and relearn and unlearn old habits, learn better, efficient muscular habits. And so we need to go slowly to do that. Brain work. We need to go slowly, and we need to move in comfort. That's a very hard thing for most of us to do, is to even understand what it means to move in comfort. And we need to move in this work. We're reorganizing ourselves and relearning because we're paying attention. If you're going to pay attention to a movement, you have to slow down. and you have to go smaller so that there's something called the Fechner Law, and we don't have to go into it, but it has to do with when you go slower and smaller, especially smaller, and you use less force, you actually feel what you're doing in your body better. So to focus, to pay attention, we're going to go slower, we're going to go smaller, we're going to pay attention to the sensations, the feeling, the general experience of doing these movements. And as we pay attention to the movement, we get sensory feedback. And that sensory feedback goes up into the brain and it feeds the motor parts of the brain so that we can keep correcting. It's called course correcting. We can keep correcting our movement pattern to make it more efficient, more easeful, less stressful. And so there's feedback, sensory feedback, better motor function, depending on better sensory feedback. And it's a loop. And what that does is it helps us to self-regulate better, not just our muscles, but our whole physiology. Our bodies are made to be self-regulating, and now we're going to help it self-regulate. So just a reminder, back away from pain. If something is painful, do it less, do it in your imagination if you cannot do it in comfort, or you cannot do it without pain. And then follow medical directives if you have joint replacements or pacemakers or other kinds of medical issues and you've been given directives, please follow them. Okay, let's go ahead and start. Our theme today, as I said, is arms and legs. And so as part of our body scan, we'll be, I'll include that in our body scan. So go ahead and lie down and make yourself comfortable on your back. And you can have your legs in any position that is comfortable. They can be bent, they can be straight. And I always like to start I do this with myself. It's my first go-to thing that I do when I'm lying down and sort of coming into myself and feeling myself, is I feel the pressure differential between the back of my head, where it's resting either on the floor or on a pillow, and my sacrum, the bottom triangular bone. And there's often a pressure differential at the beginning of doing my somatic movements, and then by the end of my somatic movements, it's even or almost even. So let's also just focus in on our trunk as you're lying there, and your trunk is three-dimensional. There's a front, there's a back, and there's two sides. So your rib cage, front, back, and sides is the upper part of the trunk. And then in the middle of the trunk, we have the somatic center between the bottom of the rib cage all the way around and the top of the pubic bone to pelvic bones all the way around. And then you have your pelvis, and your buttocks are inside your pelvis, and actually your hip joints are also inside your pelvis. And so all the pelvis, the somatic center, the rib cage, they're all part of the trunk. And the shoulder joints are part of the trunk. They are the transition between the trunk and the arms. The shoulder blades on the sort of upper back area are definitely part of the trunk. And your hip joints are very deep, and they are part of your trunk in your pelvis, which is the bottom part of the trunk. So go ahead and as you lie there, for a moment, notice your arms and your legs, how you're letting them relax and lie on the floor. You don't have to do anything to them. You're just noticing if you've been having some pain in a shoulder or in a forearm or in your fingers. And then notice your legs. Your legs, meaning your thighs, your knees, your calves, your ankles, your feet, your toes. And go ahead, your legs again can be straight or they can be bent. And gently you're going to roll your head gently roll your head in one direction and then slowly come back to your center and pause for a second, and then you'll roll your head in the other direction and then come back to center, and maybe go ahead and do that again. And you're noticing the ease of the journey to each side. Maybe as you turn to one side, you feel a little bit of tension somewhere in where the shoulder and neck meet, or you're noticing what you notice and paying attention to it. And bringing your head back to center. And now I like to do it one leg at a time. It's easier on the low back. Go ahead and bend each leg, putting your feet on the floor, flat on the floor. And we're going to start with our arch and flatten. Many of you know it, so you can already go ahead, but I will describe it. You're going to keep your buttocks on the floor. And as you inhale, you're gently going to lift your waistline in the back, in the bottom of the low back. And your low back will rise up a little bit away from the floor. And your pelvis will rock in a certain direction. And then as you slowly exhale, you'll release your back. And then some people like to do it slow enough that they wait, they inhale, and then on their next exhale, they exhale and contract their belly, and now they are contracting their abdominal muscles. Their pubic bone is coming toward their rib cage. You can even bring your rib cage down towards your pubic bone. And then as you inhale, you release and come back to neutral. It's up to you how slow you would like to do it, but the basic rhythm is when you're inhaling, you're arching or your low back is lifting. And when you're exhaling, your back, you've let go of your back, your belly, your abdominal muscles are contracted, and your pubic bone is coming toward your rib cage in the front, and your pelvis is now rocking in that direction. And you go back and forth at your own pace, paying attention, especially to your somatic center, in the back, in the front, even on the sides, but more back and front, with the arch and flatten. And as you continue, you want to make sure that you're also allowing the wave of movement from your low back and your pelvis to go all the way up into your head and neck, so that your head and neck are also moving. And you don't have to worry about, well, what should my head be tipping back or tipping forward? Just allow the natural feeling of the movement in your body to move your head and neck as you gently arch and flatten. And with your next flatten, no rushing, come to rest, keeping your knees bent. And now leave your right leg bent and lengthen your left leg. We're going to be working with the bent right leg. Very, very gently, you're going to take your right knee and you're gently going to bring your right knee a little bit out. You're going to pass it through neutral and bring it a little bit in. You're going to make quite small movements so that you can follow that movement through your thigh up into your hip socket. And we're differentiating, we're doing very small movements so we keep this outward and inward movement that it's easy to focus on the knee because that's what's easiest to feel moving through space or notice what's moving through space. But you're really moving in your hip joint. And you're just differentiating an outward external rotation and an inward internal rotation, very small movements, so you can focus your attention on your hip joint. Your thigh bone, your femur, it's called your femur, the head of the femur, the top of the femur is gently moving in and out in your hip socket, and you're differentiating that movement. And then bring your knee to face the ceiling to the neutral center position. And now we're going to integrate that movement so that we grow that movement and not only use our hip joint, but we're going to grow it through our pelvis, through our somatic center, and some of you may feel it all the way up into your head and neck. So this time, as you start to bring your right knee outward, inhale and combine it with an arch and see if you notice that you can bring your right knee out even further. And then as you exhale, relax everything and bring your knee back to center. And we're going to repeat that. So we're combining the differentiation of the hip movement into an integration into the hip and into the pelvis and trunk. So as you inhale, you're going to combine the knee moving outward and an inhale. And as you exhale, you'll relax and bring your knee back up to center. And now we're going to switch the pattern and we're going to work with our exhale and internal rotation, bringing our right knee inward toward the left. So you'll inhale to exhale, and as you exhale, as you bring your right knee inward to the left, combine it with a flatten where you gently are contracting your abdominal muscles and you're rocking your pelvis so your pubic bone is coming a little bit more toward your chest. And then as you inhale or you continue to breathe, you'll come back to center. And then you'll repeat that as you inhale, inhale to exhale. As you exhale, combine internal rotation with your flatten and come back to center. And now let's slowly combine the inhale and arch and exhale and flatten with the outward and inward motion of the knee. So inhale, as you arch, your knee goes outward. You may feel the contraction more in your right buttock. As you exhale, you start to relax and go in the opposite direction. You have to bring your knee up through neutral and over towards your left, contracting your belly, flattening your back gently. And as you inhale, you're going to go in the opposite direction. You release your front. You start contracting into an arch, bringing your knee outward. And this time, as you exhale, just come to neutral with your knee toward the ceiling. I had a request from one of the people in the class, and she is having a tight piriformis, tight buttock muscles. So in this movement, one of the muscles we're working with is the piriformis. It's one of the hip rotators in the buttock area that when it's tight, it brings your knee outward into external rotation, but sometimes it's overstretched and your thigh and knee are more internally rotated, and that stretching of the piriformis actually presses on the sciatic nerve as well. So let's go ahead as a flow one more time with the right. As you inhale, combine external rotation with your arch. Feel how it's a bigger movement than just a hip movement. Feel that the right buttock is contracting. Exhale, moving slowly, coming into a flatten with an internal rotation. And now internal rotators of the hip are working with trunk muscles, and you are lengthening or releasing out of the external rotators, lengthening that piriformis and other external rotators. And go ahead one more time. Inhale, arch, combine it with external rotation of the hip. Your knee goes out. And then slowly go through the transition where on an exhale, you're flattening and you're internally rotating towards your left with your knee, with your right knee. And come back to neutral and let that leg relax and lengthen. And notice the difference between your two legs, and you may feel it up through your pelvis. You may feel it in your low back. You feel it where you feel it. You could feel it up into your neck as well as down into your toes. Okay. Keep your right leg long, bend your left leg, putting your left foot on the floor, and you're going to follow your left knee. So first, very small movements, stay in your hip joint. If you go too big, you'll already start to integrate, but it's nice to differentiate, and you have to go smaller. So you're going to bring your knee a little bit out and a little bit in, going back and forth fairly slowly. Follow that movement up your thigh into your hip joint, and notice as you move your knee in and out, you're rolling in and out in your hip joint, and your attention is more on your hip joint. You're differentiating the hip joint itself. And the hip joint is very deep. It's not necessarily that easy to perceive. The shoulder joint is very shallow and is much easier to perceive. The hip joint is much deeper. So you're just trying to follow that movement deep into your hip joint. And then come back to neutral with your knee facing the ceiling. And now we're going to combine the outward rotation, the knee going out, with an inhale and arch. So as you inhale and arch, your knee goes outward, you come into an arch. Feel that you're probably getting your knee quite a bit further out, but no forcing. You're contracting your left buttock muscles, including the piriformis. And then just slowly continue to breathe and bring your knee back up to center. And go ahead and repeat that. As you inhale, you're combining the arch in the lower back and the external rotation in the hip. Your left knee is coming out. Feel the arching in the back. Perhaps you can feel the contraction in your buttock. And then slowly continue to breathe. Bring your knee back up to center. And let's go in the opposite direction. And now we're going to combine internal rotation of the hip. The knee will come in with a flatten. So we'll start on an exhale. Inhale to exhale, and as you exhale, you're going to contract your belly to gently start to flatten, your pubic bones coming towards your chest. You're letting your knee rotate inward to the right, and then you're going to slowly come back to center. And again, you're going to start on an exhale. So inhale to exhale. As you exhale, combine a flatten with an internal rotation. See if you can feel the pelvis and the lower abdominal muscles help to participate to bring your right knee more toward, your left knee more toward the right, your left thigh more into internal rotation. Your left hip is in internal rotation. And gently go back and forth, coming back to your neutral, and then starting again on an exhale. As you do your internal rotation of your left hip and thigh, you're lengthening the buttock muscles. You're contracting the internal hip rotators and releasing and lengthening the external rotators like the piriformis in the left buttock. And if you have pain in the piriformis or in your buttocks, you see which phase gives you the most release. You're still going to do both phases, but you do them carefully and you enjoy the release you get. Complete the one you're on and come back to neutral. And let your left leg lengthen and relax. And let's integrate with an arch and flatten. You can leave your legs long or you can bend your legs, whichever is more comfortable for your low back. And you're just going back to a gentle arch and flatten like we did a little bit ago. Just to, if anything caused any residual tension, sometimes I do arch and flatten in between and end on your next flatten. And you can either leave your legs long or you can bend your knees. And we're going to go back up into the neck. And this time we're going to work with more the front sides of the neck, coming down to the front, the sternocleidomastoid muscles, a big name. We say SCM for sternocleidomastoid. And what you're going to do, we're going to start with the right sternocleidomastoid. So see if you can follow my directions. Take your left hand and turn your face a little bit to the left. Your face to the left. Your left hand is going to go to the right front side of your neck, and just let your fingers hang out there. And you're going to feel the muscle. If you don't already feel the muscle, you're going to feel it in a moment. What you're going to do is inhale to exhale, and the very smallest amount, with your face turned a little bit left, on the exhale, hardly pick up your head at all, just a little bit, just a diameter of a hair, and feel that right sternocleidomastoid come up into your fingers, and then slowly release as you continue to breathe. Keep your fingers on the muscle. Let your elbow and arm rest on your chest. And the more that muscle disappears, the more you have been able to relax that muscle. Let's repeat. Make sure your face is a little bit left. And then inhale to exhale, and the smallest lift, and maybe downward lift, downward with your chin, just a little bit. That muscle comes into your fingers, and you can follow it all the way up into your skull, and you can follow it all the way down into the top of your breastbone, and maybe some of you can even feel the clavicle, the clavicular head. And then keep your fingers there as you slowly and with control release that muscle. Keep your fingers on the muscle. Bring your head back to center. The more that muscle disappears, the more you've been able to release that muscle. Let's do it again. Turn your face a little bit left. The mere thought of lifting your head a little bit will already contract that muscle. Try it out. The mere thought of lifting your head will contract that muscle. Keeping your fingers on that muscle, slowly release and disappear that muscle as much as you can. And then bring your left hand down, your left arm down. Bring your head back to center. Just take a few seconds to notice the two sides of your neck, front, back, and sides. Maybe you feel a difference. And now, let's work with the left sternocleidomastoid. So, turn your head a little bit to the right. Take your right hand, right fingers, and put them on the front side of your neck on the left. And you're going to inhale to exhale, and as you exhale, small amount, just a teeny amount, lift your head. It already, that sternocleidomastoid on the left pops into your fingers. Keep your fingers on the muscle, slowly release. You can bring your head back to center. The more that muscle disappears, the more it has been able to relax. You may already notice differences between your right and left. Usually one of our sternocleidomastoids is more contracted than the other because of the way we sit and the way we use our eyes and the way we use our neck muscles. So once again, turn your head to the right. You may already start to feel that muscle contract, and then slightly lift, tipping your chin down a little bit. Feel that muscle. It's a very large, strong muscle, and you can follow it all the way up into your skull, and you can follow it all the way down. It has two heads, one into the breastbone. That's the top of the breastbone. That's the one I can feel. The clavicular end, I have more trouble, but some people feel the clavicular one, the clavicle, collarbone one, more than they feel the sternal or the breastbone one. And then Keeping your fingers on that muscle, slowly, 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 with control, release, head back to center. Let that muscle disappear as much as you can. Just one more time. You could even try to now feel it without your fingers there. That's up to you. You turn your face a little bit to the right, ever so slightly raise your head, maybe tip your chin down a little bit towards your chest, towards your right chest. Very slowly release. Let your head come back to center. If your fingers were on it, the more you can disappear that muscle, the more that muscle has relaxed. And now with your head back to center, very gently go ahead again and turn your head from side to side in comfort, and just see if it's easier to turn your head, if it's a little smoother, if it feels a little bit more well-oiled, is one of the things that I like to say. And then come back to the center position. And we're going to work with our upper trapezius. And knowing me, of course, I'm going to add some stuff. So we're going to start with our regular upper trapezius. We're going to start with the right upper trapezius. So just follow along. Your legs can be bent or straight. Your upper trapezius goes from the top of your neck near your spine, down your neck and across the top of your shoulder to the tip of your shoulder. So to work your right upper trapezius, you're going to turn your face to the left. Yes, to the left. And you're going to shrug your right shoulder up towards your head and tip your head back. Do it gently. Don't overdo this. And then as you slowly release, you can keep your face to the left, but let your head come more into a neutral position. So you're taking out the tip of the tip back. You're taking the tip out and letting your shoulder and arm relax. Now let's add something to this. Let's externally rotate our right arm as we bring it up. So your face is, if you brought your face to center, that's fine. Bring it back to your left. You're going to inhale, and you're going to externally or laterally rotate your arm outward as you shrug it up towards your head and tip your head back. And slowly release. You can keep your face to the left if you want. You'll come out of the external rotation. Your shoulder will come back down to neutral. And we're just adding the arm into this movement of the head and neck because they often go together. One more time. If you've brought your head back to center, head to the left. Rotate your arm out, right arm outward as you shrug it up towards your head and tip your head back. And slowly release. This time as you slowly release your arm, your shoulder, your head, your neck, bring your head back to center. Now, what a lot of people don't know or forget about is that there is a part of the upper trapezius that comes over the top of the shoulder, and it attaches to the collarbone. It attaches to the lateral third of the collarbone. That's the part of the collarbone closest to your shoulder. So we're going to stay with the right upper trapezius for the red light function or for the forward function. Bring the fingers of your left hand on top of your shoulder and towards the tip of your shoulder and a little forward. There's kind of a shelf where your upper trapezius comes over your shoulder. You'll feel it even more in a moment. You can keep the fingers of your left hand there on your right upper trapezius on the shoulder border. So this time, once again, you're going to very gently turn your face just a little bit to the left, not as much as you did before. Turn your face to the left. Roll your right arm in, shrug it up, and bring your right ear towards your right shoulder. And feel with your fingers that shelf over your shoulder get big, and you can grab it even with your left fingers. And then slowly release and relax. It's fine for your head. In fact, on this one, I like my head to come back to center. Once again, these are the anterior fibers of upper trapezius on the right. Turn your face just a little bit to the left. Roll your right arm in, shrug your right shoulder up, tip your right ear towards your right shoulder. Let your left fingers feel and even kind of pinch and grab that shelf of upper trapezius coming a little bit over the top of your shoulders. And just shoulder, right shoulder. Slowly release, head back to center. The more that shelf disappears, frankly, mine only disappears a little bit. The more that shelf disappears, the more the anterior fibers of the upper trapezius has relaxed. Let's do it one more time. Your face ever so slightly to the left. Internally rotate your right arm in, shrug your right shoulder up, bring your right ear towards your right shoulder a little bit. Feel those anterior fibers. Slowly let everything release, relax, come back to center and relax. And notice the difference in your shoulders. Once again, not once again. Let's go to the left upper trapezius. First, we'll do the more green light or the back part of it. You're going to gently turn your face to the right. You're going to bring your fingers, you're going to leave your arm down. I'm getting confused. Let me start again. Bring your face to the right. Both arms are down at your sides. Turn your face a little bit to the right. Shrug your left shoulder up. Tip your head back. This is just our regular upper trapezius. For the left upper trapezius, slowly release. You can keep your face to the right. And now we're going to add external rotation of the arm. So inhale, rotate your left arm outward, shrug it up, and gently tip your head back. You're contracting the upper trapezius more towards the back. Slowly release, slowly let your shoulder, your arm relax. You're taking out the tip. You can keep your face to the right, but if you've brought your face back to center, go ahead, turn it back to the right. Okay. Once again, one more repetition. Face to the right, roll your left arm outward, shrug your shoulder up, tip your head back. And slowly release and relax. And this time, let your face come back to center. And take a few moments to notice the sensations from the movement you've been doing. And now we're going to do the red light part, the forward part of the left upper trapezius. So take your fingers of your right hand and put them on top of your shoulders, left shoulder a little coming over a little bit over your left shoulder and towards the lateral third of the clavicle, but you're still more up on the shoulder. You may already feel the shelf, especially if you turn your face just a teeny bit this time to the right. And keep your fingers in that area. If you don't feel it, you'll feel it in a moment. You're going to roll your left arm in, shrug it up, bring your left ear towards your left arm, left shoulder, and feel that those anterior fibers of the upper trapezius. I can grab mine between my thumb and my fingers. Slowly release. As you release, if you keep your fingers on those fibers on the left, you'll feel them, hopefully you'll feel them at least begin to relax. And if you've and I actually do bring my head back to center on this one, turn your head ever so slightly to the right, roll your left arm in, shrug your left shoulder up, bring your left ear gently towards your left shoulder. Feel the shelf of the anterior part of the upper trapezius on the left really contract. Slowly release. Let your fingers palpate or touch as you release. Again, the more those fibers disappear, which mine only do to a certain extent, that's good. That's relaxation. Bring your face back to center. And because of time, we're going to just go with the 2 repetitions of each of those. However, here's what I like to do at the end. Just one time, because now my upper trapezius is more relaxed, including the front fibers. What I like to do is, with your legs in any position, is inhale and arch. And as I arch, I like to gently roll both arms backward, both shoulders backward, opening my chest. And as I exhale, I just relax my arms and shoulders, but I actually go into a flatten to relax my lower back. And rest in any position that's comfortable. And we're going to integrate with an arch and a curl. And of course, I'm going to add something a little different to it. It's number 2 in the cat movements, but I'll explain it. Go ahead and bend your knees and bring your hands behind your head. We'll do a regular one to begin with, so we're all on the same page. And you are going to bring your head backward, your chin slightly up, to get a full spinal extension on the arch. So as you inhale, you're doing a full spinal extension, gently arch. You'll feel your elbows may even want to go back a little bit. And then as you exhale and curl, you contract your belly, you bring your elbows towards your head, you help your hands help lift your head, your pubic bone and forehead gently come toward each other. And then take all the breathing time you want to very slowly come out of the arch and curl. Let's do one more of those. Inhale, arch, full spinal extension. Your chin comes up a little bit. Your head goes back just a little bit. You're opening up the front. And then as you exhale, contract your belly and curl. Your elbows come towards your face. Your belly contracts. Your pubic bone comes up. Your chest and pubic bone come toward each other. And the forehead and pubic bone also come toward each other. And then you very slowly come back out so that you can relax those abdominal muscles and pectoral muscles. Many muscles actually are involved. All the internal rotators and adductors of the shoulder are involved. Okay, let's add something. This is called the flower. And we're going to add something more with the lower body because we're already doing it, the flower with the upper body. And I'll describe what that means. Hands behind your head if your arms have come down. Okay, bring your feet a little closer together. And as you inhale and arch and tip your head back, let your both knees go outward just to comfort. Both elbows spread outward just to comfort. Don't hurt anything. You're opening up the flower. Now, as you exhale and let go of the muscles in the back, bring your feet out, squeeze your knees in a little bit, bring your elbows in, contract your belly, lift your head, and now you're closing the flower. And then as you inhale, make the transition. I like to bring my feet closer together. As I gently move into an inhale and arch, let your knees come out, your elbows out. You're opening the flower. And as you exhale and curl, contracting the belly, lifting the head, I like to splay my feet out, gently squeeze my knees, gently bring my elbows a little closer, but in comfort, closing the flower, and then just slowly come back to neutral, bringing your arms down and letting your legs relax in any position that's comfortable. And let's turn over onto our bellies. I usually start, and I'm going to direct this, one hand over the other and your forehead on top of your top hand. So your head is in the middle. You need to always make sure your head is as comfortable as possible. And we're going to start by focusing on your spine and the spinal muscles on each side of your spine. Your hands are going to stay down. As you inhale, a long arch. Your head goes long just as much as you lift it. And even your tailbone comes up a little bit so that you're actually arching, but in comfort, and then slowly release. And as you come back down, you're letting your spinal muscles relax. Okay, this time we're going to do it as an arch and a flatten. An arch whereby you inhale, you arch, you lift your head, a long arc, you lift your tailbone a little bit. And now think about, as you exhale and come back down slowly, think about coming, as your forehead starts touching your hands, contract your belly, bring your pubic bone up towards your rib cage that's against the floor. Your forehead may go more into your hands, and you're actually doing a flatten or a partial curl. And let that relax. One more time. This is just a prone meaning on your belly, a belly arch and flatten. Inhale and arch. Your head and tailbone are going backward in comfort. Exhale, release the back, contract the belly. Forehead and pubic bone toward each other. And the floor stops you a little bit, but it also gives you some support. And then relax. Okay. This is going to be a new move for many, many, many of you. Turn your face to the right. You're going to bring your left arm down. You're going to take your right hand away from your face, but you're going to keep your right arm bent, palm on the floor, near your face, but not under your face, so that your face is to the right, your left arm is down by your side, your right hand is palm down on the floor near you. And what you're going to do is take that right leg, right knee, and bend it outward a whole lot so that your knee is outward, your foot is inward. Your knee goes out, and your thigh is, as much as possible, close to 90 degrees, and your foot, the inside of your foot, the arch area is on the floor. And you still have to make yourself comfortable. Now, if you cannot do this, I understand, but to the best of your ability, you might not be able to fully come out, but come out to the extent that you can. And what you're going to do is you're going to focus on your right knee and thigh. So bring your awareness into your right knee and thigh. Sometimes you have to make little adjustments as you go along. And at the top of your, at the trunk end of your thigh, that's your hip joint. And so your thigh bone, your femur, the head of the femur goes up into the hip joint. And what you're going to do, and you might need to focus on your knee to sort of start this movement, you are actually going to, your foot's going to stay there. Your foot's going to stay where it is. And you're going to bring your thigh and knee more forward, and you're going to create space in your hip joint. You're a little bit, you're not really coming out of your hip joint, but I'm going to call it coming out of your hip joint. You're creating space. And then you're going to gently bring your knee and thigh into your hip joint. And your buttock might even rise up a teeny bit. And you're going to now very slowly transition, bring your thigh, right thigh and knee project your knee long. You're bringing it out of your hip joint a little bit, or that's the direction. And then you're going to bring your knee and thigh into your hip joint and come to neutral. This is an unusual position. It's really good for SI pain. If you're doing it within your comfort zone, it's really good for back and SI. But now let's think about bigger than the hip joint. That was a differentiation, an unusual differentiation, but that was a differentiation of your hip joint. Now we're going to grow it, and we're going to add more parts of our trunk. In fact, we're going to add on the lengthening of your thigh and knee outward. You're going to actually add an exhale and a flatten. So inhale to exhale, and as you exhale, project your thigh and right knee out of your hip joint a little bit. Your abdominal muscles may contract a little bit. And then as you inhale, gently arch as you pull your thigh and knee into your right hip joint. And as you go in and out, when you're projecting long out of your hip joint, it's more of a flatten, even though it's on an angle. And as you bring your knee and thigh into your hip joint, it's more of an arch. Again, it's a little bit on an angle. And do it comfortably as an in and out movement. And maybe you can even stop thinking about, oh, I'm supposed to arch or I'm supposed to flatten. How about you just relax your trunk and see as you project your knee out and as you bring your knee in, see if your trunk, if you can just soften and let your body follow without thinking too much. But it's okay to clarify that when you're projecting your thigh and knee long, you're more on a flatten. And when you're bringing it more, the thigh and knee more into the hip joint, you're on an arch. And let your leg go long and relax for a moment. And let's trade our upper body position. So your head and neck, if you need to like roll your head a little bit or take care of your neck a little bit in the center, that's fine. You're going to end up with your face to the left. Your right arm is down by your side. Your left palm is on the floor, not under your head, near your head or shoulder somewhere. And now you're going to bring your left knee and thigh way out as close to 90 degrees at the hip as possible, but it doesn't have to be that much. It can be much less, and you can still do this quite well. And what you're going to do, think about the move. You're going to be bringing follow your knee and your thigh into your hip joint, and what you're going to be doing is bringing your thigh and knee more out of your hip joint, so you're creating space in your hip joint. And then you're going to be gently bringing your knee and thigh more into your hip joint. And you're going to go back and forth slowly a few times. The movement can be very small. In fact, sometimes a smaller movement is actually not only more comfortable, but brings more pain release. And it also brings more sensation, so you can, from your attention, you can tell what you're doing more. And so you're differentiating a hip movement, you're creating more space in your hip, and then you're gently compressing or squeezing into your hip. Soften your trunk, soften your pelvis and somatic center and rib cage. And now we'll combine it more consciously with what's happening in your spine and trunk. As you bring your project your thigh and knee more out of your hip joint, you're doing that on an exhale and a slight flatten or even a slight curl. You're going in that direction, a more red light direction, if you know that jargon. And as you inhale and arch, you're sliding your left knee and thigh into your hip socket. And then as you exhale and contract your belly, you're projecting your left thigh and knee a little bit out of your hip socket. And then you're inhaling. I may be going a little fast, I'm sorry. Inhaling and bringing your thigh and knee into your hip socket. You may even want to try and not even have to think about what your trunk is supposed to do, but just let it be soft and let it flow. Let the projection of the knee either longer or in towards the hip dictate how the trunk is going to follow that movement. And maybe do one more to comfort. Let that left leg lengthen. And turn over onto your back and relax. If you didn't understand that movement and have a few minutes after class, I can probably help you with it. It's a really interesting movement to do, and it's a really helpful movement to do, both in terms of differentiation and integration from the hip joint, but it's also a really nice movement. And a lot of people that are not comfortable on their belly can actually be in this position on their belly. So sometimes it's the position people will actually take, and you're going, oh my goodness, what can I do in this position? Okay, so you're back onto your back. And let's go ahead and after we've done movements from our belly, we usually come into some version of an arch and curl or arch and curl diagonal. And so here's what we're gonna do for our arch and curl. Again, it's gonna be a gentle variation of arch and curl, somewhere between arch and curl on the diagonal. Bend your knees. Bring your hands behind your head. Okay, now, very gently just follow the directions. As you inhale and arch, a full spinal extension. As you inhale and arch, bring both knees a little bit to the right. And as you exhale and curl, bring your knees back to center. Bring your elbows around your head. Lift your head, forehead and pubic bone toward each other. As you begin to inhale and relax your belly and move into an arch, you're going to bring your knees to the left a little bit. And as you exhale, you bring everything back to center on the curl. So each time you arch, you're arching and your knees are going in one direction, both knees, and each time you curl, your knees are coming back to center. And then the next time you arch, your knees will go in the opposite direction. And the next time you curl, everything will come back to center. It's sort of a combination of arch and curl and the twist. And complete the one that evens up the amount you've done, or just complete the next one you're on, and then from the curl, you'll just slowly come down and relax. Okay, let's have you turn onto your left side with your right side facing the ceiling and put a pillow under your head. So you're lying on your left side. If you end up lying on your right side, you're going to have to reverse the directions. So your right side, check it out. Your right side is up towards the ceiling, and your knees are comfortably bent in our usual position, but just let your lower body be comfortable. Now, you're going to take your right arm and bring your right arm out from your shoulder, parallel to the floor, but above the floor, so that it's sort of even with your shoulder, and bend your elbow and put a soft fist on the floor. Bend your elbow and turn a soft fist down to the floor, and adjust where you are. Do you need to be a little higher or a little lower? But you're you're not too far high or too far low. Okay, and you're making a soft fist on the floor. Your fist is going to stay there. That's not what's going to move. This is a differentiation particularly of the shoulder blade, but of course the shoulder is involved. And what you're going to do, just like we paid attention to the thigh and the knee in two movements ago, we're going to pay attention to the upper arm and the elbow and what they're doing. So you're going to project your elbow long out in front of you, not up, not down, but forward, more long. And then you're going to pull your elbow in towards your shoulder and shoulder. And what's happening is as you project your elbow long in front of you and then bring it back in, you're focusing on your shoulder blade. You're focusing on your scapula. Your scapula has to start moving. When you're projecting your elbow long, your shoulder blade is coming away from your spine. And when you're pulling your elbow in, your shoulder blade is moving toward your spine. And you are doing a wonderful and often not so easy differentiation of the shoulder blade with the shoulder coming along. But this is really a shoulder blade differentiation. And as your fist is staying there, as you're projecting your elbow long, your shoulder blade is moving away from your spine. As you bring your elbow and upper arm inward, your shoulder blade is going towards your spine. You need to have your your upper arm should be kind of perpendicular to your trunk so you get a better movement. If your elbow is too low, it might be difficult, but you have to adjust for comfort. Okay, now let's add a little bit of trunk movement with this. It's not going to be big, but as you project your elbow long, let your upper trunk turn and come a little forward toward the floor. And your face will turn, your nose will turn more toward the floor too. And then as you start to retract your elbow and forearm so your shoulder blade goes toward your spine, just a little bit, turn your trunk and face toward the ceiling. It may not be a lot because your fist is on the floor. But as you go in and out, you're just softening your rib cage. You're softening your somatic center so that your trunk can follow your rib cage a little bit. If you need to bring your fist a little closer to your body to have a little bit more room, that's fine. And then let your arm relax and along your side. Let your arm relax along your side. And let's just say hello to our lower body a little bit. Well, let's say hello to our whole side a little bit. With your arm long and not over your head right now, we're going to do the lateral flexion with a long arm. Your knees stay touching. You're going to internally rotate your thigh so your top right foot comes up and lengthen your arm down. Your hip and armpit are coming a little closer together. And then you're slowly going to release. So we're just doing a little bit of lateral flexion with our arm long. This is a really good substitute lateral flexion when you're having shoulder problems and you just cannot put that arm over the top of your head. And maybe repeat one more time, a general lateral flexion. And come out of it slowly. And turn over onto your other side. And you're going to lie comfortably on your side, let your legs bend comfortably. And you're going to bring now you're lying on your right side, your left side is up towards the ceiling. Your left arm is out in front of you, about shoulder height and about as high as your shoulder if you can, above the ground. Your palm is hovering above the ground. You're going to bend your elbow and put your fist on the floor. And you can adjust your fist closer or farther away from your chest, not too far away from your chest. And you're going to think about your shoulder blade. Now that we've done it from the other side, this is a differentiation of movement in your shoulder blade coming through your shoulder, through your upper arm and elbow. You're going to project your left elbow long. Your shoulder blade is coming away from your spine. And you're going to gently bring your elbow and upper arm in toward your spine, in toward your shoulder. Your shoulder blade is moving towards your spine. And slowly and gently project your elbow long out in front of you so your shoulder blade comes away from your spine. And then as your shoulder blade comes towards your spine, it brings your elbow and upper arm closer to your body. And just go back and forth. You're differentiating the shoulder blade movement, the scapula movement. Very important. The scapula is the root of the hand. And sometimes we wonder why we have so much pain in our shoulder and different parts of our arm, forearm, wrist, and fingers. It's often because our shoulder blade isn't moving. And it's the shoulder blade that has to be able to move, actually in many positions. This is two of a number of positions for our hands to work and do what we need to do. And now you can begin to add a little bit of trunk movement. As you bring your shoulder blade away from your spine and your elbow projects forward, you can let your chest round forward or fall forward, not really fall, but gently go towards the floor. Your head and neck also turn, your nose goes towards the floor. And then as you bring your shoulder blade towards your spine, you can just a little bit turn your chest and face up a little bit more towards the ceiling. And as you go back and forth, you don't even really have to think about your trunk. If you can let them be relaxed and soft and let the movement in the trunk be dictated by the support that the shoulder blade and arm need in this position. To move your arm is to move your shoulder blade, is to move your trunk. To move your hand is to move your trunk. And with the completion of the one that you're on, whether it's going in or going out, just let your arm rest along your side. And we'll do a little bit of lateral flexion. And so with your arm draped along your side, your knees are bent and stacked. You're going to internally rotate your left thigh. Your foot will come up. Your hip will hike. Reach your left arm gently long so your left armpit and left hip come toward each other. And then you'll slowly release and gently repeat. Do not yank. A lot of people just yank their arm down and they get hurt. So this is to be comfortable. And you want to see if you can equalize your effort between your hip and your armpit. So as your hip and armpit come toward each other and your foot comes up, you've got just as much force, gentle force in your armpit as you do in your hip. Your armpit is usually easier to bring down than your hip is to bring up. And again, this is a good substitute for our lateral flexion move where we put our arm over our head, especially if you've been having healing from a shoulder injury. And complete the one you're in the midst of and turn over onto your back. And just take a moment to rest. And we're going to do the twist, and then we're going to do a variation of the twist, and I'll lead you through it. You're on your back. Bend both legs, one leg at a time. Let your arms come out. Now, if it's not comfortable for your arms to come out from your shoulders, if that's too high, you can bring your arms a little closer to your body. You want your arms to be comfortable. So your arms are on the floor in a comfortable position, out on the floor, off your body. And if you can, they're kind of out from your shoulders like you're making a T, but you don't have to make a T. You can bring your arms down a little bit. All right, let me start you off. You're going to bring your knees to the right and your face to the left. Knees to the right, face to the left. You're going to roll your left arm out and your right arm in. Now, your knees go to the left, your face to the right, your right arm rolls out, your left arm rolls in. And gently go back and forth. Don't worry if you're not sure if you got lost. Both patterns, whichever pattern you're doing in your arm, that's another good pattern to do. But here's what you're going to start adding as you go back and forth. As you go in one direction, start to lift your arms a little bit away from the floor. And then as you turn and twist and go in the other direction, raise your arms a little bit more from the floor. And every time you go from side to side, you're going to raise your arms a little bit more until your fingers are facing the ceiling. They stay up, they don't come back down. You're just going to keep raising and turning your arms until both hands, the fingers of both hands are facing the ceiling and both arms are turning with fingers facing the ceiling. Both arms are turning as your lower body is turning from side to side, and then incrementally start bringing your arms down. If this is too much for your arms and you need to rest your arms, of course, you can bring your arms down. But as you go from side to side, see if you can incrementally bring your arms down a little at a time until your arms are back down on the floor. And rest. And just rest in a position of comfort. And we're coming right up against our deadline. Next time we meet, I am going to have you come into, well, actually, let's go ahead and do a diagonal arch and curl as our last move. I'll guide you. And then those that want to stay a little bit and stand and walk, that would be fine. But in my next class, I'm going to darn it, I'm going to be sure and allow a little extra time to do some standing and walking kind of focuses. So a diagonal arching curl means one, your knees are bent. Your right hand will start, if you need guidance, bring your right hand behind your head. You're going to inhale and arch, and as you exhale and curl, your left knee and right elbow are coming toward each other. Your head is lifting. Your right hand behind your head is helping it. And because of time, I'm going to suggest 2 repetitions with each side. So you'll inhale and arch, and as you exhale and curl, right elbow, left knee toward each other. And when you have completed 2, you'll go ahead and change sides. Don't let me rush you. Take the time you need to take. Left hand behind your head. So you'll inhale and arch, and then on the curl, left elbow and left knee come toward each other as you curl and lift your head. When you have completed 2 repetitions with each side, go ahead and lie down on your back and just take a few seconds to rest and feel the sensations from the movement you've been doing. Because of time, this officially ends the class, and I know some people will have to leave. If you want to stay a few more minutes, you can make your way slowly to standing and do a little bit of walking around.